To surprise my husband, I decided to sneak into his concert backstage. But what I saw stopped me cold. He was passionately kissing a famous actress in his dressing room. The actress ran her fingers along his neck, her lips curling into a sultry smile. Compared to that tyrant you call a wife, aren't I a much better choice? Eric wrapped his arm around her slim waist and nibbled at her collarbone. Focus, babe. Don't ruin the mood by bringing up trash. I quietly pulled the door shut and called my assistant. Contact the office and cancel all projects involving Eric. Immediately. Chapter 1. Eric didn't stumble home until 5 in the morning. Reeking of alcohol, he collapsed onto the bed and wrapped himself around me, rubbing his head against my back like a needy child. Babe, I had too much to drink, I'm so thirsty. I kept my eyes shut, motionless. Usually, no matter how late he stayed out, I would wait up for him. I'd have a pot of ginger tea ready in the thermos, coax him to drink it, and clean up the mess he made, whether it was vomit on the floor or his clothes. But tonight, I didn't feel like doing anything at all. Frustrated by my lack of response, Eric gave me a little shove. When I still didn't budge, he groaned and dragged himself into the bathroom. Then I heard the distinct buzz of his phone vibrating on the nightstand. A notification flashed on the screen. A message. From Julia, the actress. Eric, you're amazing. I can't get enough of you. I turned my head away, shut my eyes again, and felt a cold chill spread through my chest. He had spent the entire night with her. Half an hour later, Eric returned, still damp from his shower. He slid back into bed, propped himself against the headboard, and glued his eyes to his phone. Every now and then, I could feel his gaze dart toward me as if he were checking to see if I was awake. I stayed perfectly still, pretending to sleep. The next morning, while getting ready, I noticed something in the laundry basket, a white dress shirt with faint lipstick stains. They weren't in just one spot. There was a smudge on the collar, another on the cuff, and even more in other places I didn't want to think about. As I held up the shirt, Eric appeared behind me. He snatched it out of my hands and muttered with a blank expression. It's nothing. Fans get a little too excited sometimes. You know how it is. I stared at his throat, watching him nervously swallow. He always did that when he was lying. I didn't bother calling him out. I turned and walked into the living room, where I noticed a bouquet of imported roses sitting on the table. Eric came up behind me and wrapped his arms around my waist. Let's go out for dinner tonight. I made reservations. As usual, he took me to the fancy French restaurant we frequented. The dishes were beautiful and plated with care, but I couldn't bring myself to eat. The thought of food made me nauseous. Eric noticed. He set his knife and fork down and gave me a concerned look. Babe, you don't seem to have much of an appetite today. Is the dessert too sweet? Or is the foie gras not fresh enough? I'll call the manager over right now. I ducked my head, trying to hide the turmoil on my face. The food's fine. I just thought of something. Eric nodded and, as if on cue, pulled out a small gift box. He opened it with a flourish, revealing a sparkling diamond necklace. It was beautiful, elegantly crafted, intricately designed. It was the necklace I had admired for months but never bought because it was outrageously expensive. Every spare dollar I had went toward supporting Eric's career. Sorry I couldn't be with you last night. He said softly. This is to make it up to you. Do you like it? He took the necklace out of the box and carefully clasped it around my neck. His movements were gentle, his voice tender. It was the perfect romantic gesture. But it couldn't mask the icy bitterness that had taken root in my heart. I saw this exact necklace yesterday. It had been around Julia's neck. If I hadn't impulsively decided to visit him that night, I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have believed that the man who showered me with romantic surprises could betray me so thoroughly. The same necklace he gave her, he now offered to me as a token of apology. Did he think so little of me? Did he see me as trash, deserving only of someone else's leftovers? Chapter 2. Yesterday was his concert. It was also our wedding anniversary. I sat stiffly, my fingers unconsciously gripping the pendant on the necklace. It took everything in me not to rip it off and throw it away. Eric finished fastening the clasp but didn't leave right away. Instead, he placed his hands on my shoulders, gently rubbing them as he spoke. "Babe, I have a private interview tomorrow." His words trailed off, but I knew exactly what he was implying. "I have a business trip tomorrow," I said flatly. "Leaving at a.m. Eric's face lit up, his tone suddenly cheerful. "You always get me, babe." I lowered my gaze, avoiding his eyes. Eric was a famous pop idol, the kind of guy with a perfect face and legions of fangirls fawning over him. To protect his image, he decided we'd keep our marriage a secret, and I'd gone along with it. Aside from his manager, the record label's CEO, and a few top executives, no one knew we were married. Eric happily sat down to finish cutting his steak. He'd barely made it halfway through when his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, then at me. A sheepish smile spread across his face. Babe, my agent just texted. Looks like I need to go back and reshoot part of that ad campaign from last time." I forced a smile and nodded. "Of course. Go ahead." Eric could hardly contain his excitement as he grabbed his coat and left. I took off the necklace, tossed it into the gift box, and stared at it for a moment. I wanted to throw it away. Instead, I decided to keep it. After finishing my meal alone, I took the box home. Once there, I called my assistant and handed it to her. "Take care of this. You know what to do." She nodded and left. I turned back to start packing my suitcase. The business trip wasn't a lie, I really did have a few contracts to finalize. The next morning, I left early and spent the entire day rushing between meetings and negotiations in the neighboring city. By the time everything was wrapped up, I was exhausted. On the drive back, I fell asleep in the car. The driver gently woke me up when we arrived at the underground parking lot. That's when I realized my phone had died. I didn't have a charger with me, and I was too tired to care. Waving off the driver, I headed straight for the elevator, desperate to get home and collapse into bed. By now, it was late evening. The sky outside was pitch black. Eric's so-called private interview should have been over by now. I pulled out my keys to unlock the apartment door but found it bolted from the inside. Frowning, I rang the doorbell. It took a long time before Eric finally opened the door. His expression was hurried, and the panic in his eyes was impossible to miss. He stepped outside, quickly shutting the door behind him and pushing me back against the wall. "What are you doing here?" he hissed. "Didn't I tell your assistant to let you know I'm not done here yet?" I raised my dead phone and waved it in front of him. "No battery." Eric opened his mouth to say something, but before he could, a syrupy, flirtatious voice called out from inside. "Eric, who's at the door?" "Julia." Of course, it was her. Eric's face tightened. He turned his head and shouted back. "Just the building management. Routine checkup." Then he turned back to me, his expression frantic, and whispered harshly. "Leave. Now." Without waiting for a response, he slammed the door in my face. I stood there in the dark hallway, shivering as the motion-activated lights flickered off again. I don't even remember how I managed to leave. The next thing I knew, I was sitting in my car, staring blankly ahead. A private interview. Huh? Turns out it was just an intimate little session between the two of them. 3 hours later, I saw Julia stroll into the underground parking lot. She wore a mask but didn't bother hiding her identity as she confidently walked to a waiting van. Eric followed close behind, looking completely at ease as he escorted her to the vehicle. After she climbed in, he turned to look around and spotted my car. His expression changed as he hurried over and knocked on my window. I unlocked the door, and he climbed into the passenger seat without hesitation. "The interview was a video shoot," he said casually. "They wanted to include some bonus footage, so it took longer than expected." I sat silently, my face blank as I listened to his excuses. Eric reached for my hand, holding it gently. Don't be mad, babe. I couldn't help it earlier. I pulled my hand out of his grasp, opened the car door, and got out. Without a word, I walked to the elevator, rode it up to our apartment, and went straight into the bedroom, locking the door behind me. Chapter 3. The bedroom was neat and tidy, but the air inside was stale and heavy, filled with the unmistakable stench of what had happened between a man and a woman. The smell hit me like a slap in the face, and I couldn't stop myself from gagging. Pushing past Eric, who had followed me in, I ran to the other bathroom and heaved over the sink for what felt like an eternity. I hadn't eaten much all day, so my stomach was empty, and all I could bring up was bitter bile. Eric stood in the doorway, watching me with a mix of confusion and concern. "Babe, are you pregnant?" Of course not. Eric had been wanting a baby for a while now, but I'd always insisted on contraception. His career was still on the rise, and I didn't want a child to distract him, or more accurately, I didn't want a child to tie me to him any longer than necessary. No, I wasn't pregnant. I was just sick to my stomach from the thought of him and Julia. I rinsed my mouth, splashed cold water on my face, and gripped the edge of the sink until the wave of nausea passed. Only then did I manage to suppress the urge to slap Eric across the face. Straightening up, I turned to him, my voice calm but firm. "Eric, I want a divorce." "What?" I walked past him, ignoring the stunned look on his face, and retrieved a folder from my bag. I handed it to him. "Sign this. We'll go finalize everything at the courthouse tomorrow." Eric flipped through the divorce papers, his expression shifting rapidly from disbelief to confusion to something I couldn't quite read. Then, without warning, he tossed the papers aside and lunged forward, wrapping his arms around me. "Babe, what's wrong? Why are you suddenly talking about divorce? Did I do something to upset you? Is it because I've been so busy lately? I'm sorry, okay? That's on me. Once I'm done with work, I'll make it up to you, I swear. Didn't you say you wanted to go skiing? I'll have my assistant book the tickets and get us all the gear tomorrow, and then we can." "Enough." I shoved him back, my voice sharp, my expression ice cold. "Eric, do you seriously think you can smooth this over with sweet talk?" He looked genuinely baffled, reaching for my hand, but I yanked it away. "Babe, I'm not trying to sweet talk you. I saw you, Eric." My words cut through his excuses like a knife. He froze, his hand still outstretched. "What? What do you mean?" 2 nights ago. At the awards show. Backstage. His face drained of all color. "I saw everything. You and Julia." My voice was steady now, like a hammer driving the final nail into a coffin. "And today?" I gestured toward the bedroom. "Do you think I can't smell what you two did in there? You've been with her all day, haven't you?" Eric panicked. His composure shattered as he grabbed my arm and dropped to his knees. He slapped himself across the face hard. Once, twice, 3 times. The sound echoed in the room, sharp and jarring. I took a step back, startled by the sudden theatrics, my mind reeling. Before I could react, he threw himself at my legs, clutching them as he burst into tears. "Babe, I messed up. I'm so sorry. It wasn't my fault, it was her. Julia set me up. She drugged me last night, and then she showed up out of nowhere." I stared down at him, barely believing what I was hearing. "It's all a trap," he wailed, his tears flowing freely. "She even took photos and videos to blackmail me. She said if I don't leave you and be with her, she'll release everything to the press." His voice cracked as he continued. "You know how important my career is right now. If this gets out, it'll ruin me. Babe, you have to believe me, I didn't have a choice." Eric's desperate rambling was so ridiculous that I couldn't help but laugh. "Drugged? Photos? Videos?" I repeated, my tone dripping with disbelief. "You're a grown man, Eric. Are you seriously telling me you let yourself get blackmailed by Julia? And even if we pretend for a second that's true, you looked pretty damn sober the other night." I tried to push him off, but he clung to me like a drowning man, refusing to let go. Frustrated, I kicked him hard enough to make him stumble back. Reclaiming my space, I reached into my bag and pulled out a stack of photos. I tossed them at his feet. The images scattered across the floor like fallen leaves, each one more damning than the last. Chapter 4. The photos were all courtesy of Julia. She had mailed them 2 days ago, but I had only received them yesterday afternoon. Each photo was a meticulous record of her time with Eric, complete with dates, timestamps, and even a tally of how many times they had been together. I had to give her credit for her dedication. Eric stared at the photos scattered on the floor, his face shifting through a kaleidoscope of emotions: shock, guilt, panic. I didn't bother sparing him another glance. I quickly packed a few changes of clothes, grabbed my suitcase, and walked out of that disgusting house. Luckily, I still had my pre-marriage apartment, a small studio I kept as a backup. It was regularly cleaned by a housekeeper, so it was spotless and ready for me to crash in. Dragging my suitcase behind me, I drove straight there, took a long shower, and collapsed into bed. My phone was charging, but I didn't bother turning it on. When I finally woke up, I saw that my assistant had left a few status update messages, but the rest of my notifications were a flood of missed calls from Eric, over 100 of them, and dozens of long, rambling text messages. I skimmed through the messages briefly. They were exactly what I expected: excuses and blame shifting. First, he denied the authenticity of the photos, claiming they were fake. Then he pivoted, saying it was all part of the company's marketing strategy. According to him, as a rookie in the industry, he had been forced to collaborate with Julia, a top actress, to ride her popularity and boost his own exposure. He insisted it was all for his career, not personal. He even had the audacity to say that every time he was with her, he thought of me. Imagining my face helped him ease his guilt. Now that I had found out, he claimed he felt relieved because the burden of hiding it was too much for him to bear. In the end, he pleaded, insisting he truly loved me and didn't want a divorce. He begged for another chance, promising to prove himself. The more I read, the more nauseous I felt. His claim about thinking of me while being with Julia? That was the final straw. I barely managed to keep myself from throwing up again. Without hesitation, I blocked him on every platform: calls, texts, everything. Then I called my assistant. "Is this mess still not sorted out?" Her voice on the other end was anxious. "Kayla, I promise we're working on it as fast as we can. Everything will be wrapped up by next week at the latest." Trying to suppress the irritation bubbling inside me, I hung up and threw myself into work. Days flew by. Over the next 5 days, I would unblock Eric's number briefly, just long enough to call him and ask when he planned to finalize the divorce. Every time he gave an excuse or tried to stall, I hung up immediately and blocked him again. But today was different. For the first time, Eric didn't pick up. I didn't care. I blocked his number again and turned my attention to something more important: letting in the stylist I'd hired for the evening. I had an awards gala to attend as a special guest. By the time I arrived at the event, dressed in a stunning royal blue gown, the hall was already bustling with people. And that's when I saw her. Julia. She was wearing a dress eerily similar to mine, though hers was a playful pink. Around her neck was a necklace I immediately recognized. It was the one I had sent back to her through my assistant. To be fair, Julia was a headliner for a reason. She had the kind of presence that drew attention. Even the pink gown, a color that would make most people look washed out, somehow made her look radiant and lively. I sipped my champagne and started walking toward a group of acquaintances, but Julia intercepted me, stepping into my path. "What do you want?" I asked, my tone sharp, my patience non-existent. Julia smirked, her expression full of arrogance. "I know who you are. You're Kayla. Eric said you were just a washed-up housewife, but honestly, you're not bad looking." I wasn't surprised she knew who I was. For someone like Julia, digging up information wouldn't be difficult. "And?" I raised an eyebrow, glancing over her shoulder. I'd spotted a friend waving at me and was eager to wrap this up. Julia's eyes swept over me from head to toe, her gaze dripping with disdain. Your face is okay, I'll give you that. But your body? Meh, nothing special. I guess that's to be expected though. You're just a regular woman, average body, average everything. Her lips curved into a smug smile as she added, I just thought I'd let you know, Eric's future is bright. If you really care about him, you'll step aside and stop holding him back. If you truly love him, you'd want what's best for his career. Ah, so that's what this was about. I couldn't help but laugh, swirling the champagne in my glass as I debated whether to pour it over her head or throw it in her face. Before I could decide, Eric appeared. He was walking toward us, and when his eyes landed on me, an unreadable expression flickered across his face, conflicted, nervous, maybe even regretful. Chapter 5. Julia wasted no time slipping her arm through Eric's, her voice dripping with fox sweetness. Eric, isn't tonight your big awards ceremony? She's not here to go public with your relationship, is she? That would be awful. Today is such an important night for you. If news like that gets out, your career could be ruined. Eric's face darkened ever so slightly at her words. He patted Julia's hand in a soothing gesture, gently moving her behind him before turning to face me. His tone was calm, almost pleading. Kayla, let's not do this here. We'll talk about everything later, but this isn't the time or place. Let's not make a scene, it won't help anyone. I let out a sharp laugh. For someone who had been on his knees begging for another chance just a few days ago, he was quick to treat me like trash now that his career was at stake. I wasn't about to waste more energy fighting with him. Shrugging, I nodded. Fine. Sign the divorce papers tonight, and come with me tomorrow to finalize everything. I'll leave after that. Before Eric could respond, a commotion broke out near the entrance to the banquet hall. A high-profile guest had just arrived, accompanied by a swarm of reporters and photographers. Panic flashed across Eric's face as he glanced toward the door. He leaned in, his voice urgent. I'll sign them. Just not now. After the event, okay? Now please, leave before this gets out of hand. I smiled, my expression calm as I stepped around him and began walking toward the entrance. Eric's face turned stormy, and in an instant, he grabbed my arm, his grip tight enough to hurt. His voice dropped to a harsh whisper. Are you crazy? I already said I'd do it. What more do you want? Stop making this harder than it needs to be. Just go home. The pain in my arm ignited my anger. I yanked myself free and snapped back at him. Eric, who's really making this hard? Me or you? We were close enough to the entrance now that people were starting to notice the tension between us. A few reporters glanced our way, their instincts immediately kicking in. Like sharks smelling blood, they grabbed their cameras and microphones, hurrying toward us. Eric cursed under his breath, his voice low but furious, as he quickly stepped forward to block the reporters. His tone shifted to one of exaggerated politeness as he tried to spin the situation. Everyone, please don't misunderstand. She's just an overenthusiastic fan asking for my autograph. Let's not make this a big deal, okay? Fans like her mean well, they're just really passionate about my music. It's not their fault. His saccharine words left the reporters momentarily stunned. Before they could fully process what he was saying, Eric called over the security team, clearly intending to have me escorted out. But before the guards could reach me, my friend appeared. She strode confidently toward us in sky-high stilettos, positioning herself at my side like a shield. Her voice was sharp and cutting as she addressed Eric. Eric, are you out of your damn mind? She crossed her arms, her gaze icy and unrelenting. Do you even know who this is? Eric hesitated, his confidence faltering for a split second. Of course I do. He replied stiffly. But that doesn't change the fact that she's causing a scene. My friend cut him off with a laugh, loud enough to draw even more attention. A fan? Seriously? Since when did my friend become one of your groupies? She gave him a withering look, her words dripping with sarcasm. What, you think your off-key live performances are enough to make her swoon? Chapter 6. The voice belonged to none other than Evelyn, the undisputed queen of Hollywood in our generation and my childhood best friend. We grew up together, practically sharing the same wardrobe as kids. But while I took the ordinary path of life, Evelyn shot straight to the top. She entered the industry at 15, and within just 5 years, she swept every major award across film, music, and television, earning herself the coveted Triple Crown. Evelyn wasn't just a star, she was the star. If she wanted to, she could pluck a random pedestrian off the street and turn them into an A-lister overnight. So, when she walked into the room, the entire banquet hall froze. The atmosphere changed instantly, and all eyes turned to us as she approached, her presence commanding attention like gravity itself. Eric's expression shifted uneasily, flickering between uncertainty and panic. Julia, on the other hand, stepped forward with her usual composure, her voice sweet and respectful. "Miss Evelyn," she said with a polite smile. "Are you acquainted with Miss Kayla?" Evelyn glanced at me, her calm, self-assured face breaking into the faintest of smiles. Then she turned back to Julia, her tone cool but cutting. "She's my personal guest. What do you think?" The question hit its mark. Julia's smile faltered, a flash of irritation crossing her face before she masked it. Eric, meanwhile, clearly weighed down by the cameras clicking away behind him, forced an awkward smile. "Ah, my mistake. I thought she was just a fan." Evelyn didn't dignify his excuse with a reply. With her security detail expertly clearing a path through the crowd, she led me out of the chaos and into the safety of her private dressing room backstage. As soon as the door shut behind us, Evelyn turned on me. She pushed me against the wall, her eyes glassy with frustration and anger. "Kayla!" she snapped, her voice cracking. "Did you seriously run off to marry that loser? That's why you disappeared for years. Are you out of your goddamn mind?" I opened my mouth to respond, but she barreled on. "I warned you, didn't I? I told you Eric was trash. But no, you had to go and elope with him like some rebellious teenager." Her voice caught, and her hands balled into fists. "Do you know how hard it was to track you down? If he hadn't started showing his slimy face in public after debuting, I might never have found you. What were you thinking, hiding yourself away like that? Did you really think I'd eat you alive? Or are you afraid your parents won't forgive you?" I looked away, unable to meet her piercing gaze, guilt twisting in my chest. I'm sorry," I admitted quietly. I wasn't thinking clearly back then. Evelyn and I were the same age, but she had always been the more mature one. Even as a child, she was the golden standard: straight A's, a clear sense of purpose, and the drive to go after what she wanted. She was everything I envied, everything I aspired to be. My apology softened her anger. Her shoulders slumped, and with a sigh, she pulled me into a tight hug. "You were one of the strongest people I knew growing up," she said, her voice full of regret. "How did you let yourself get dragged down by someone like him?" Her words stung, but the truth in them made my throat tighten. I patted her shoulder lightly and forced a small smile. "It's fine. I've finally come to my senses. I've already asked him for a divorce. He just hasn't signed the papers yet." At that, Evelyn's fiery determination reignited. She rolled up her sleeves like she was preparing for a fight. "He's refusing to sign? That spineless leech. Say the word, Kayla, and I'll make sure he's blacklisted across the entire entertainment industry by tomorrow morning." I couldn't help but laugh, even as I hurried to cover her mouth. "Evelyn, stop. You're Hollywood royalty now, you can't just throw around threats like that. People will twist your words and use them against you. I can handle this. Trust me." She hesitated, her eyes searching mine, but I pushed her gently toward the door. "Now go. The ceremony's about to begin, and you're the main presenter tonight. Don't be late." Reluctantly, Evelyn backed away, pointing a finger at me as she left. "Don't you dare disappear on me again, Kayla. I'm coming back for you after this." Chapter 7. Eric unsurprisingly won the Newcomer Award that night. Originally, Evelyn was supposed to present the award, but she had someone else fill in, causing speculation among the reporters. Eric's joy at winning was overshadowed, and he spent the rest of the ceremony with a dark expression. I didn't wait for Evelyn and slipped away before the ceremony ended. I needed to pack my things. As I finished packing and was about to leave, I ran into Eric at the door. Before I could react, he grabbed me tightly. "Thank goodness, you're finally back." The scent of Julia's perfume on him made me nauseous. I pushed him away, suppressing the urge to slap him, and said coldly, "Eric, don't forget what you promised." Eric's eyes reddened instantly. "Honey, I just won the newcomer award. My future is finally bright. Please, don't make a scene. I promise I won't neglect you." "Make a scene?" I laughed bitterly. "Eric, haven't you done enough?" Eric's face showed a hint of impatience. "I told you Julia and I are part of the company's arrangement. I didn't want it either. But that's how this industry works. What can I do?" I was too tired to argue with him. "I know this industry isn't clean. I warned you when you started. You insisted, promising you wouldn't be corrupted, that you'd make it on your own. Now you've broken your promise. You're no longer the clean Eric I knew. I don't want to live with someone like that. Sign the divorce papers, and I'll let you go. Give me peace. If you refuse, don't blame me for taking legal action." I left without looking back, not sparing a glance at the kneeling Eric. Chapter 8. The next morning, I woke up to find myself trending. The top headline read, "The Queen's hidden important woman is her." The picture showed Evelyn pulling me away from the reporters, our skirts lifted as we ran, her expression ambiguous. But perhaps intentionally, only my back in the blue dress was visible, not my face. I breathed a sigh of relief. I quickly messaged Evelyn. "Evelyn, I'm sorry for sneaking away last night. Can you get that trending topic removed?" Evelyn immediately sent a voice message. "Do you know you're wrong?" I sent a nodding emoji and a red envelope. "Satisfied," she replied. "All right, since you're sincere." As the undisputed queen of the entertainment industry, Evelyn had the power to remove trending topics quickly. But she had never had any scandals, and many speculated about her sexual orientation. So even though she removed it quickly, the news spread, and many believed it confirmed her orientation. Countless fans were heartbroken, trying to dig up information about the woman in the photo. Seeing the extreme comments online, I broke into a cold sweat. To my surprise, Eric also came looking for me because of this. Even more surprising, he found where I was staying. I didn't bother to find out how, and blocked him at the door. "Are you here to sign the papers?" Eric's expression was humble, seemingly sincere. "Honey, I'm not here to talk about that." I moved to close the door, but he blocked it with his hand, urgently saying, "When did you and Evelyn meet? Why do you want to know?" Eric softened his tone. "Can you introduce us? If I can connect with her, I'll agree to anything you want." I laughed. So that was it. I no longer felt any bitterness towards Eric's attempts to use me. "Eric, you've lied to me too many times. I don't believe any of your promises. I'll wait 7 days. If you don't sign, I'll sue." I slammed the door in his face and called the property management. Security soon arrived to escort the persistent Eric away. I thought Eric had some bottom line, but by the afternoon, a new trending topic appeared. It showed Eric and me meeting, with me inside and Eric in the hallway. This time, my face was clearly visible, along with my apartment number and address. What chilled me was the headline. "Shocking! New idol singer and queen both deceived by the same woman." Someone compared the previous trending topic's body shape, from hair to height to body curves, even enlarging the mole on my hand. The internet exploded. A woman cheating on both a man and a woman. Countless attacks flooded in. "Oh my God, this woman deceives both women and men. Is she bisexual or what? Damn, my oppa!" I just started standing him, and he's already ruined? Poor baby. The queen is also pitiful, 2 top stars deceived by 1 woman. I was stunned, then realized I wasn't safe. I quickly contacted Evelyn. Before I could speak, Evelyn said, "Ignore the online comments. I'm sending someone to get you. The trending topic is being removed. Stay calm." I felt a surge of gratitude. Evelyn had always been my strongest support in times of trouble. But I declined her offer. It's too late. Being passive isn't my style. Evelyn, I need your connections to help me with something. Chapter 9. The afternoon trending topic was clearly Eric's doing. It was his usual tactic. He placed himself and Evelyn as victims, putting me on the hot seat. This way, fans who sympathized with Evelyn would also sympathize with him. He could ride the wave of popularity and crush me. But he didn't know my relationship with Evelyn. After calling Evelyn, I disguised myself and took the emergency stairs to the rooftop, peering down at the crowd of reporters and fans surrounding the building. Through my phone's surveillance, I saw my door surrounded by reporters who had sneaked in. I carefully locked the rooftop door and sent all my evidence and prepared statement to Evelyn. Evelyn had already arranged her team. 10 minutes later, a quiet announcement and my statement appeared online. The PR addressed the rumors about Evelyn and me, condemning Eric's opportunism. My statement included our marriage certificate and evidence of Eric's infidelity. My social media account hadn't been discovered yet, so my statement didn't cause much stir. But with Eric's tag, his fans quickly found it. The comments were soon flooded by his fans. But the next moment, Evelyn reposted it, adding, "I despise men who step on women to rise, especially those who step on my sister. How bold!" Then she posted new content. It was full of photos of Eric and Julia together. Even hotel records. This was more comprehensive than what I had provided. I was surprised. These materials weren't all from me. Evelyn had used only the hotel records I gave her, but the rest were new. This meant Evelyn had been investigating since I told her about Eric. Her connections were broader and she worked faster. Of course, it helped that Eric and Julia hadn't been too discreet. With Evelyn's statement, public opinion quickly shifted. Evelyn's reputation was solid. She wouldn't stoop to attack a newcomer for resources. As a public figure, she rarely took sides unless she had solid evidence. So, Eric's fans quickly abandoned him, dropping by a third within an hour. Julia, with even more fans, faced harsher backlash. Such a big commotion couldn't escape Eric's notice. A strange number soon called my phone. I silenced it, refusing any unknown calls, focusing on the online developments. A new idol singer having an affair with a popular actress? The explosive news spread quickly, and the crowd outside my building thinned. The remaining few couldn't affect me. I took the elevator to the underground parking lot. A tinted SUV was waiting. Chapter 10. When I arrived at Evelyn's villa, she was watching a live interview with Eric and Julia, her face dark. Coincidentally, when reporters were searching for them, they were together. Caught red-handed. The live broadcast accelerated the shift in public opinion. Even with their combined fan base, Evelyn's status couldn't completely suppress it, at least not without a fight. But the censored intimate scene left their fans with no excuses. Seeing me, Evelyn pulled me close, frustrated. "I thought you just met a regular scumbag. I didn't expect Eric to be so vile. What were you thinking? You knew about him and Julia, why didn't you leave sooner?" I couldn't help but smile bitterly. Back then, I was so focused on Eric's career, willing to stay hidden, even suggesting a secret marriage. Eric agreed without hesitation. I felt uneasy then, thinking he seemed too eager. But lost in my own emotions, I ignored the red flags. Since deciding to end things with Eric, I reviewed everything, seeing all the signs. It was clear. Eric had been using me all along, skillfully making me believe he was the respectful man who supported my decisions. Ridiculous. If I could turn back time, I'd slap my past self awake. At Evelyn's, I finally had some peace until she received a call. After hanging up, she looked at me with a complex expression. Eric is looking for you. He's agreed to sign. I raised an eyebrow and unblocked Eric's number. Sure enough, his call came through immediately. His voice was tired and bitter. Kayla, your move was ruthless. I replied coldly. I learned from you. If he hadn't attacked first, I wouldn't have gone to such lengths. I didn't want to expose myself publicly. But the best defense against a fierce attack is a stronger counterattack. Eric laughed bitterly. Why didn't you tell me you owned Elm Entertainment? I sighed. I thought the name made it obvious. It was a company I built for you. Because of my evidence, my identity was exposed. Besides the Kayla Group, it included the entertainment company I had founded for Eric. Elm was my name and City was his. From the start, the best resources were allocated to him. It was so obvious, yet he never suspected, showing his lack of attention. Ironically, he blamed the company for his affair with Julia. As the owner, how could I allow that? Eric was silent, realizing his mistake. After a while, he said hoarsely, "Let's finalize the paperwork tomorrow." This time, there were no obstacles. I got my divorce certificate and drove away without looking back at the despondent Eric. Chapter 11. Half a month later, Eric, having terminated all contracts, disappeared from the entertainment industry. I had my assistant handle the contracts, smoothly ending them without affecting my company. Julia, still struggling, had some talent. Though most contracts were terminated, she still had a few endorsements. Some companies valued traffic, even negative attention. But Julia's status had fallen, reduced to live streaming sales, only to be driven off by harsh comments. 3 months later, she too vanished. Evelyn, back from her break, was busy again. To my surprise, she wanted to merge her studio with my entertainment company, which I refused. I renamed and sold the company. Without Eric, it was useless. I had no interest in the entertainment industry, preferring to focus on my business. Evelyn bought it, using it to train idol singers. Within 3 years, the renamed Elm and Evelyn became a top training ground, and Evelyn gradually moved behind the scenes, doing what she loved. She even found love, quickly marrying and honeymooning abroad, leaving the company to me. As she said, "How could I let you stay single? There are plenty of fresh faces here, all better than Eric." I laughed at her teasing, wanting to drag her back. But looking at the young, hardworking faces, I couldn't help but smile like Evelyn.